Poised for Exit is a show for business owners who want to achieve a successful exit based on their own terms. Your business exit will likely be the biggest financial transaction of your life, and for most, you'll have one shot at doing it right. The topics and guests we feature and the stories they share will provide valuable ideas and strategies to improve operations and grow enterprise value so you can achieve the best possible exit outcome. Now here's your host, award-winning certified exit planning advisor, Julie Keys.
Welcome, everyone, to the Poised for Exit podcast. Hey, before I give you a glimpse of our special guest today, I'd just like to give a shout out to KRWC Radio in Wright County for broadcasting our weekly episodes these past several years. We really appreciate your help in spreading this much needed content that helps so many business owners of private companies. Thank you, KRWC. Our guest today is an influential leader in the area of family business education. His leadership and advocacy for owners of family businesses have impacted multiple companies. We're going to hear from him right after these messages. Are you a business owner getting ready to transition? If so, I recommend True North Mergers and Acquisitions as your confidential strategic partner. They understand your business sale isn't just about one buyer and the price, but what you net that counts. In other words, what you get to keep. When you're ready for a higher level of representation that delivers consistent results, contact True North M&A to do the heavy lifting of selling your business. Learn more at tnma.com. That's tnma.com. Thinking about selling your business in the next few years? Don't wait to start planning. I've seen too many business owners wait too long and regret it. Freedom Financial Partners are financial advisors who specialize in exit planning for business owners, helping you reduce tax surprises, protect what you've built, and quantify how much you need from the sale. Their proven process helps you think beyond your business so you can move forward with clarity and confidence. The longer you wait, the fewer options you may have. Download your free financial readiness assessment today at ffpforme.com/exit. That's ffpforme.com/exit.
My name is Todd Crow, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
Exiting your business is a big deal, both financially and emotionally. I'm John Marquet, Certified Exit Planning Advisor with TrustPoint. We help business owners transition smoothly on their terms. Our focus is on maximizing value, minimizing stress, and giving you confidence in what's next. Whether you're selling or passing the torch, we make the process seamless. Start planning today at trustpointinc.com. That's trustpointinc.com.
Hello, Poised for Exit listeners. We are here today with John Keimig, who's the Executive Director of the University of St. Thomas Family Business Center. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Julie. Great to be here.
So glad to have you back after a long time. We were talking about it before the show. It's been 5 years, I think, since you've been on the show last. And then we reprised an episode, but high time.
Back and better than ever.
Yeah, definitely. So happy to have you here and catch up with all that's going on there. 9 years you've been the director, 12 years you've been involved with the Family Business Center. So I'm sure lots of things have happened in that span of time, changes, both, that you have been an influencer on and just like society in general, family business, all the things. So maybe get us caught up on what's been going on.
You bet. So I came to St. Thomas 12 years ago, working in the Family Business Center under Sarah Stern, who was my predecessor and hired me. And she set up just a great foundation for family businesses to come together and learn. And so I was able to take over after she stepped out, and then just continued listening to the audience. And that was families and advisors, and tried to keep building on that foundation to say, okay, what's next? What's the next thing we need? And so in those 9 years, I've launched a program specifically for advisors, a luncheon program. We get about 140, 150 people at each of those. Continue to do our breakfast series that's only open to members of family businesses. We had 225 people at the last one, so that's been growing great.
Crazy.
We've got 7 peer groups now, and teaching a class on family alignment. And we're working on some new stuff as well. So it's just been a lot of growth and listening. We've got a next gen gathering we've done for 3 years now for our members, a women's leadership event, trying to create
Oh,
more opportunities for people to get together.
yeah.
I've learned in my 9 years that a good chunk of my job is an event planner. Not what I signed up for, but turns out that is a huge part of the role, and
Yeah.
that's how people come together and gather in groups anywhere from 10 people in a peer group to 35 at a next gen event to 225 at a breakfast.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, your events are really, really great. Like I said before the show, I remember in 2018 we co-organized an owners forum and it was just awesome. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, thank you. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
and the needs are ever changing. And
Yes.
there's just, in the last 4 years, we've had growth of 60% in our membership,
Oh my
which
goodness.
is outstanding. So more and more
Wow.
people are realizing that they need to be amongst other family businesses in a
Mm-hmm.
safe space where they can talk about challenging issues. 9 years ago when I took over, I thought people came to us because our topics were so unique, and we're the only center in Minnesota, and so they are. But then I learned it
Mm-hmm.
was more about the others in the room and not feeling alone. And then a couple of years ago, there was an event where I had this kind of aha moment where I realized that people are allowing us, our presenters, to poke the bear and to say, hey, here's a topic that maybe you haven't talked about. You didn't want to, didn't know you needed to. Um, there's 200 other people talking about this right now. So you can talk about it too. So we're kind of giving people permission to step into something that might be uncomfortable or unknown and to come
Yeah.
out on the other side with conversations with families that can be very healthy going forward.
Yeah. Well, that whole communication process and like vulnerability and all of that is going to vary right from family to family depending on
Mhm.
how comfortable they are just talking about life in general, at least in my experience that's the case. So what are some of the biggest issues that come up between the generations when there are communication breakdowns?
Yeah, we did an event a couple of years ago where I split the room up by the now gen and the next gen. And we
Yeah.
had a short keynote, but we also had everybody submit communication issues that are happening across generations. And
Mm.
we went like Dear Abby style. So we had all the next gens talking about a shared issue that somebody had, and then now
Sure.
gens doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was really neat because then we went and said, all right, next gens, what did you talk about at your table? And you could look over and you could see the now gens kind of bobbing a little bit. And I remember there's one where we went to the now gens, and it happened to be a group of all founders. And they said, we realized that we took a lot of risk and because we founded the company, but maybe we're not giving our kids enough risk. And I remember I snapped my head to the left,
Mm.
and all of the heads were like rapidly going up and down of the next gen. But there's certainly differences in how they work, how they
Mm.
show up, um, the
Mm.
perceptions of each other. One thing I've realized is that sometimes the next gens have a real issue with asking mom and dad, what are your plans for transitioning, retirement? What does the wealth look like? What do you need financially to retire? And a lot of times the now generation isn't comfortable or just hasn't had that conversation yet. And sometimes they haven't had it because the next gen hasn't asked. And so
Yes.
it kind of becomes this chicken and the egg sometimes where
Mm-hmm.
if either generation can come out with just a small communication thing and just say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
mom, dad, where do you see yourself in 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is, and just start those conversations. That can really help. A colleague of mine that works at Cornell and runs a family business program there did a research study last year with a little less than 200 people across the country that were enrolled in colleges next gen and asked them about ownership. And 46% said they were owners, 34% said they weren't, and 20% said they weren't sure. And that
They
was
didn't even
really,
know.
they didn't know. And that was really
Wow.
alarming to me. And I said that at our last breakfast event, and people laughed. And it is ha ha funny sometimes. But I thought to myself, potentially 1 out of 5 of the next gens in this room are going, uh oh, I'm one of them. And
Mm.
so when we think about ownership and what does that mean and how do you become a good owner, some people don't even know if they're an owner. So
Yeah.
that's a conversation that really needs to have to happen for
Yeah.
families to be able, the next gen to really say, okay, is this something I want to be part of? moving forward, and what does that mean?
I've found that that conversation can get muddled too by when there's people that are working in the business from the family and then family members who aren't. There's that. And then, just the whole how conversation of how do I go about doing this? And I remember specifically, because I've had a lot of clients over the years who have been members of your family business breakfast group, and I can always tell when they've been going and not going.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. One in particular, because it was kind of a distance. They were from Rochester, and I said, "So how long has it been since you guys have been to a breakfast meeting?" "Oh, probably about a year." I go, "Well, it would be a good idea for you to get there," because we were having this particular conversation.
Mhm.
And sometimes, it's I'm fine with being the buffer and helping them with, opening the conversation, but they still have to have it,
Yes.
right?
Yep. And our breakfast series and our programs are great, but they do need good advisors as well. So
Yeah,
I see, kind of three parts working in tandem. We can educate and connect, but they need people like yourself that get the systems, understand family
yeah,
dynamics, understand how to get people across whatever the finish line might look like. And then they've got to be willing. And thankfully, most of the families that are in our program, they're choosing to educate themselves.
yes.
They're choosing to come. So I'm fortunate that I get to work with a lot of people that are proactive, that are saying, hey,
Hmm.
we want to figure out what the next generation looks like. So the people that are coming and coming back, they're on that right path. So I'm fortunate in that snippet of about 120 member families that they're all moving in the right direction. They might get stuck
Hmm.
sometimes, but they're here to figure that out. And I think that's the first hurdle.
Oh my gosh. And the impact of the work that you do is just so far reaching. I don't know if people really understand how important it is because, I mean, I look at it from an exit planning standpoint and I look at small business, and when they don't transition well, it impacts so many
Yes.
people in the wrong way, right? And
Yep.
family business is a huge, as you know, percentage of those private companies. And if they don't transition well, then a lot of people are hurt, the economy included. So, yeah, love that you're such a champion for it. And I'm a big admirer of your work. Very
Thank
generous. Yeah. So let's talk about communication systems and how we can help stabilize them for the future because, generations kind of communicate a little bit differently. We use different modes. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, you bet. And I think that's a key thing is that, everybody has a different lens based on where they are in the family system, where they are in the business, the ownership. Can they become an owner? Do they have to work
Hmm.
there to become an owner? Birth order, all of those things certainly play a role. But it's understanding that everybody in that system comes with a different lens based on those things. Are they married? Are they not married? Have they worked there? Did they go work somewhere else first? So there's a lot to think about as we navigate as people in family business of where we are now and
Hmm.
where maybe I or my sibling or my parents are in 5 or 10 years, and really where they want to be in that amount of time. And then beyond that, I think it's an understanding of what decisions are made where. What decisions do we make as a family? What decisions do we make as owners? How
Hmm.
about management if we have a board? So I just stepped a group of families that are taking a class I'm teaching on family alignment through this exercise where we had a family council, the ownership group, the management, and the board, and I gave them a list of topics to say, all right, who's the decision maker here? Who needs to be informed? Who do we need input from?
Hmm.
And do we need to just communicate this? And sometimes some of the answers were, hey, this decision is just made right here, and that's that. One example, firing a CEO or hiring a CEO. So the board makes a decision with input from the owners, and they're going to disseminate that to the family and inform them. And maybe there's even some input in hiring from people in the management team. But to help families understand that this isn't just a decision that anyone in the family or business gets to make, but to say, okay, let's put on this hat and think as owners or as the board or as the management team. So little exercises like that can really help where we say, okay, who needs to be at the table here?
Yes.
And if we have 20 members in our family, it can't be everybody. So how do
Right.
we use a system to communicate that and get input and hear people's opinions, but also make a decision without necessarily 20 voices.
So are you seeing that this is something that still needs work, like they should still be working on this? Are there other things that you've noticed that they're kind of letting go and not paying much attention to?
I think it always needs work,
Yeah.
communication. I think, especially as you're heading towards a transition, you think about a mom and dad running the business and passing it
Mm-hmm.
off to three of their kids who work together and the fourth doesn't, right? So you've already got, okay, what are the lens of everybody? How are decisions going to be made? Because you
Mm-hmm.
might have had a leader of a mother or a father that kind of made all of the decisions. How do we
Mm-hmm.
settle things? Are all four owners with equal voting share? What's the mechanism? So how does our governance change over time? And usually, as you're looking towards a transition of leadership or of ownership, so again, different conversations in both, but how are we going to make decisions differently than what we have? So I think that's something that needs to always be ongoing as family members are added, as business needs are added. How do we talk about, maybe the next generation as owners? What are we expecting as liquidity or control or growth? How do we align ourselves behind those things? Because we can't necessarily have all of those. So how do we really make decisions as owners that we can then have the CEO implement throughout the business and work with the board if you have a board? Most of the families in our center don't have a fiduciary board,
Mm-hmm.
um, but a lot of times it's a board of three or four family members. So again, it's just kind of
Okay.
understanding that, okay, we're meeting as a board. Here are the board decisions. So I'm big on how do we have conversations in the right area. Even when I taught the class, I brought three hats, F, B, and O were on the front of them. And you just stick the hat on and say, we're going to have a conversation as a family. We're going to have a conversation as a business or a conversation as owners. And
Yeah.
it's an easy, simple visual, but to remember that as you go to your parents and say, hey, mom, dad, I'm talking to you as your son versus, hey, Steve, Joyce, I'm talking to you in the business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've noticed too over the years, family business generations, right? So the many times the kids who are in the business will address their parents by their first name when they're talking about business matters, and I think that's good. I mean, it
I
helps.
I hardly I hardly see anybody say mom or dad. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They will when they're talking about something personal, but most
Yes.
of the time, yeah. And I think that that's good because it helps them, I think, probably subconsciously differentiate too. Yeah, to your point about boards, I mean, I've also seen companies that have boards utilize the board in helping with transition planning, which I suppose they could participate in that somewhat, but I always thought that the board's primary purpose was to help the business grow.
Yeah, and it certainly is. But job one, I've always heard from people on boards is to hire and fire the CEO. And that's your
Mm-hmm.
main job. But beyond
Right,
that, it's
right.
really to push the CEO.
Yes,
It's to understand what the owners want from the business and then to
yes,
help the CEO figure that out.
yes.
Um, the person who founded our center, his name's Harry McNeely. He just turned 102
Oh
two
my
weeks ago.
gosh.
And
Wow.
I met with him probably 8, 9 years ago when I took over. And he made a comment that's always stuck with me. He says, if your board's not making you sweat, it's time to get a new board. And
Yes,
that was always his philosophy. And I think it's a really good one.
it
If you have
is.
board members you don't like, you can fire them, you can get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
But you want people that are going to challenge you, that are, maybe 5 years ahead of where you're going, that understand the industry, things like that, where you can really push forward and bring the company to, its future state that's desired by the family.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if a family keeps growing, you need the business to grow as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the way I see it. Because it's like, well, if they don't have their foot on the gas that way, and they're trying to do something else that they're not really hired for, then that, could be detrimental to the business too, right? So, no, they're
Yeah,
really good comments for sure. Um, so we mentioned at the beginning of the show that there were some new things going on. So it's time for us to talk about the Family Business Center and some new things that you have coming up.
sure.
And I also, as we talk about that, I would like to have you just mention to our listeners who are out there going, how do I get involved? So include
You
that
bet.
in your comments. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I kind of teased that one. I'm a former TV person, so I dropped that for you, and I will come back to it. I'm really excited about a new offering starting in January. That's a mini MBA in family business.
Ooh.
We did some focus groups with families to find out what sort of additional education we can offer. And St. Thomas for years has had a great mini MBA program. So we built it on that, but we're tweaking it to bring in family business cases. And we're adding additional courses around family dynamics, ownership, succession planning. And when we look at the HR module, it's HR from a family business lens. And I have somebody that is an HR consultant, but worked in multiple family businesses. So it's topics like HR, business law, marketing, operations. You're going to get that business foundation. Every class is
Mm-hmm.
about 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
There's 14 modules over 7 weeks. So there's 5 full days on Friday, and then 2 of the weeks we're doing some hybrid stuff. And it's really going to be an awesome opportunity of a cohort of families. We're looking to cap it at about 22, and I think we're at about 15 right now. So we're getting pretty close to that number as people make decisions. My goal is to keep running this every year as we continue to help families figure out, how to better understand the business, because a lot of people come into family business without maybe a business degree. They've got a
Mm-hmm.
ton of acumen and are good at something else, and they're trying to apply that to the business, but they might need that finance side,
Right.
understand the marketing principles, things like that. So this is really a great opportunity to foundationally build people in the next gen and the now gen that are looking for some business acumen and maybe don't have their MBA or a business degree. So I'm really excited to roll this one out there, and it'll start in January.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I would love to be able to share that. So make sure you ping us,
you
tag
bet.
us, whatever, so that we can get that out there to our network, because I think that would help lots of companies out there that are probably looking for something like that, and you're filling the need.
Yeah, we
Hmm.
are, and it's great to get pushed by an institution to say what else can we do as St. Thomas to educate family businesses, to
Yeah.
connect family businesses with some awesome undergrad and graduate students that we have working on class projects and things like that. So we're really
Yeah.
trying to kind of integrate the whole system, especially when you look at, like, we have a student doing an AI project, and I connected him with 3 family businesses that said, hey, come on in, take a look at what we're doing here and offer some insights. So we've got a lot of that going on too. For anybody to get involved, our website is stthomas.edu. So it's stthomas, all one word, /family business. To connect with me, my last name is a little goofy to spell, so I would do familybusiness@stthomas.edu just for an email address. And then I'm happy to have a conversation with you, connect you wherever it is you're looking to go.
Perfect. Awesome, John. Well, we'll have tags and things like that in social media and in the show notes, so people can still reach out to you that way as well.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so let's talk about Poised for Exit for a second before we go
Yeah.
into your action steps. What does that mean when you think about a family business and being poised for exit, in your opinion?
And Julie, I've realized that the term succession has often been um, a word used for like what happens on at midnight on March 5th when dad turns 75.
You're right.
And that's just not it. Succession is this kind of
Mm,
constant journey. It's having ownership conversations. It's developing next generation leaders. It is bringing the next generation along relationally. So I think being poised for exit is having something to retire to for mom, dad, whoever, and starting that journey of stepping away, but also creating a path for the next generation to come in, cut their teeth, take on some challenges, let them work their way through those challenges in the business, but then
hmm.
also, on the ownership side, to bring them to ownership conversations, to start saying, this is how we speak as owners, especially again, if you're going from 1 or 2 owners to multiple. How do we navigate that? Obviously, working with an attorney and people like that on whatever the structures need to look like. But I think
Hmm.
being poised is educating yourself, starting to figure out what the right conversations are, and then
Hmm.
finding good advisors that can guide you on.
Hmm.
Family Business Center is a great place to start conversations, have a bunch of conversations. We've had families that have been around longer than the 12 years I've been here.
Hmm.
Um, but we're not going to necessarily get you over a finish line. I think that just takes a lot of effort from the family to have regular family meetings, and ideally with skilled advisors that can help them do.
Yeah, I think the outside perspective is huge. And, I'm never going to profess to have all the answers. It takes a team. I teach teams within the
Mhm.
exit planning industry. And yeah, it's super vital. So part of the work that you're doing in just fostering that makes huge sense and makes a huge difference for businesses to transition successfully. Yeah, I come from family business, so it's
Right.
a passion of mine for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a couple of things that you'd like to share with our listeners on like what they could do to get this whole process started. And it's one step, right, for a 1,000-mile journey.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the first piece of advice would be to start a conversation in a place you lack understanding. So that could be with a parent, child, siblings, cousin, whoever, but share curiosity and not necessarily conclusions. So again, thinking
Mm-hmm.
about ownership, right? Like, hey, what's the idea here, as opposed to when is this going to happen, or I
Yeah.
feel this. Like,
Mm.
really come at it from a place of hope and curiosity. You don't need a big agenda, just a simple question like, there's a question about the future I've been thinking about. I'd love to hear how you see it. I think that's one good, easy step. Build up the courage to go have that conversation. That might be something that you just go, I just don't know where we're at here. The second piece of advice is to put some shape around your conversations, because I think once families start talking, it's easy for discussions to wander or repeat themselves, especially when we're thinking about Thanksgiving, Christmas time, these times when we all get together.
Yeah.
But to create a simple structure, even something as straightforward as writing down what decisions are being made by the family, by owners, by management. There's often a lot of overlap, but those are separate discussions. So I think really goes back to the hacks and to say, what are the conversations and the issues that each group needs to try and solve, and how do we keep those separate but keep people informed?
Mm. Awesome. Awesome advice. Well, John, gosh, it's been great having you on the show. I sure
Yeah,
appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom, and your passion for family business is just really amazing. I mean, it is. So, not just saying that,
awesome.
really mean it. Yep. Thanks
Thanks,
for being
Julie.
here. Yeah, for sure. And we'll be tagging you, like I said, you'll be in the show notes. People will be able to get a hold of you if they want to get involved. And thanks also to all of our listeners out there across the United States and around the globe. We would not be able to do the show without you. We really appreciate you listening and sharing. And thanks again also to all of our amazing sponsors. We'll see you again next time.